Welcome back, Winning Wealthers. It's your boy Jeff and B-Rock right here. We have an exciting episode today. We're with Lauren Plant, not to be confused with Lauren Plante, unless you're French. She is fantastic. She's a mindset coach. We typically talk, the whole premise of this show is wealth, health, and happiness. We've talked a whole lot about building wealth and different deals and commercial real estate and business stuff. We're going to be doing more things that address your health and happiness. And this episode with Lauren was phenomenal. Tune in and get ready for a good one. That's me in a nutshell. You're almost too. But maybe we do that after. I don't think we were that close.
All right, welcome to the pod, Lauren. So we got connected, it's probably maybe 2 years ago or so on Instagram, and we've chatted back and forth, and excited to have you on today on the podcast. So our podcast, the premise of it is health, wealth, and happiness. And a lot of our episodes so far have really been geared around towards the wealth side of things. So I'm super excited to go deeper into the health and happiness side, which I think is mindset and increasing performance, which I think is certainly your specialty. So let's start off with, can you share a bit of your background and explain what you do?
Thank you so much, Brock, for having me on. This is so cool because about 2 years ago when I met you, you were on my podcast and now I'm coming on yours. So this is cool. Yes, a bit of my background. I think you and I got connected in particular about real estate and real estate investing, which was my prior career before becoming a mindset and life coach. But what really led me to this career was it's a life journey. It's like a calling for me in particular. And so when I went to school, I thought I was going to go into speech pathology, but I decided I took a really big interest in neuro and psych and human behavior. So right out of college, I get into human behavior where I saw some pretty gnarly stuff, like some kids with some serious PTSD. And that was my first eye-opening experience as to how much your past plays into your present life and your behaviors and your habits and your actions and how much of us is led by subconscious behaviors. It really is 95% of our actions are subconscious. So as we get into behaviors and habits today, I think that's important to know. So from that career, I then got into neurological education specialist when I moved to Manhattan in New York City. And then I decided that I wanted to get out of the 9-to-5 structure. I love the career, but I could not be kept in a box. I am definitely an entrepreneur. That is my mentality. That is my personality. So that's how I found real estate. And I think that I was just subconsciously preparing my life for the career that I'm doing now, because through real estate, I became the top producer in my brokerage and I bought properties, and now I have Airbnbs, and I created this little nest egg so I could start my business, because otherwise I'm not sure I would have been able to do it. So now I've been about 3 years as a mindset and life coach, helping entrepreneurs move through their blocks and break their patterns so they can find a life of success and fulfillment. And I couldn't see it any other way. I finally feel for the first time in my life that when something just feels right, it was that right feeling. I really feel like I'm on my purpose.
So there's a lot to unpack there. And a couple things that I love too are the subconscious there. We talk about this on our podcast a bit here and there, but I try to write my goals down every day almost, so that I can almost program my subconscious. When I'm sleeping, when I'm not thinking about it, hopefully, my subconscious me is just getting shit done in the background, right, and just working towards it. And I've really found that it's worked. It's something I'm going to do my whole life. So that's one thing that I kind of want to unpack with you. But also, real estate. Not to talk too much on the business side of things. I don't know if that's exactly what we're trying to talk about on this show, but it's so cool because there's people that can make a career out of real estate, or you can use it to sort of supplement your lifestyle. I have a friend that she wants to do I'm not even going to give away her business idea because I think it's great. But anyway, she wants to do this other business idea, but she's basically building a real estate cash flow portfolio to be able to go ahead and allow her to leave her job and go tackle this other business idea. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger, before he was an actor, before any of that, right? He built a real estate portfolio in Southern California. And like what it did is it allowed him to work out all day, every day and become just, a beast. And he could, basically be more selective around which roles he would take. So like he waited for the Terminator to like come around instead of like, oh, I got to go be some shitty, like, backup actor, right? This big ass dude, right? He could wait for that perfect role and wait for it to sort of click, kind of like you were saying. So I love that. You guys got connected through real estate. Mm-hmm. You were an agent?
I was a real estate agent, and you're so right. I totally used real estate as a bridge. I was an agent, and then I created a team, which I do think is where I first realized, like when I didn't train my team, I coached my team, which made them exponentially more successful, but also retention, like they stayed. Not everybody stays in real estate. And I realized like that's where I wanted to become a coach. I'm like, wow, I've really got something here. And I always knew I was going to start a business. Like the very first book I bought when I moved to New York City and I knew I was starting this new journey was How to Build Your Own Business. And it was before I had even gotten into real estate. So I always knew, but I didn't know I'd end up leaving real estate. I always thought it would be in real estate, which I still coach a lot of real estate agents, but I used it as a bridge. And that's how I kind of feel about like independent contracting careers, because everybody essentially, I think, I mean, not everybody, I should say, but if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want to be an entrepreneur, right? So there's this step-taking process to the career journey, and you do have to learn from somebody at some point, which usually happens in a 9-to-5, right? And then you end up getting into independent contractor. You have a little bit of that flexibility while you get to kind of find yourself in the business world. Then you finally build that confidence and you're like, I can start my own business. I can do this. Let's do this. And so I think it's a step-taking process. And for those trying to skip the steps, I think might find themselves, bouncing back and forth for a little bit, at least from what I've noticed.
Love it. So on that topic, so if you look at the top performing people in any field, right? Whether it's a sports, business, they're all high performers. What are some of the key elements you see to define someone as a high performer, right? Whether it's personal development or business, what are some of the key attributes there?
Dipping back into the subconscious programming, I do think it is undoing a lot of the old beliefs, right? It is those limiting belief systems that take place in our mind that keep us from having the confidence to do what it is we want to do. And so in order to do that, it's not all about the doing. I think it's about the undoing and the unprogramming, because we've been so programmed from a young age. The smallest thing, it's nobody's fault. That's the crazy thing. It could be the smallest, like you were presenting your show and tell, right, at school, and somebody said one little thing and it impacted your confidence, and it stays in your brain until you kind of understand that, unwire it, and then rewire it. And so I think the ability to get grounded in reality, like what is the reality of your skill set? What is the reality of your abilities? And get out of your own way. Stop taking everything so personally. And I say that in the kindest way possible because it's really hard to do. Like, of course, when we blow up on social media and we get those negative comments or whatever else, like it impacts us. And it is learning how to move through the tough times. So I think that's another element to it too, is getting really used to going through hard situations. Like I'm talking criticism, disappointment, discouragement, all the things that people are deathly afraid of because probably when we were younger or in school or whatever else caused us a lot of pain, and your brain is wired to avoid pain at all costs. So now you have to reteach your brain like, hey, rejection is not painful. It's actually direction, right? And we have to reteach our brain all of these things. So I hope I answered your question. I feel like I gave it in a large amount of words.
I think that was great, Lauren. And we're all about getting deep here and having fun. And so, we might have to have you unwire, undo some of Brock's stuff like on the fly here.
I got you.
He already told me he'll be vulnerable. So I think we got to go deep with Brock. But first, and I don't know if you mind this or not, but like, is there, and you don't have to answer, but is there anything that you particularly in your own mind had to go back and undo so that you could break through some of these limiting beliefs and start your coaching business and get to where you are today?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm grateful you asked because I love to share my story. In the beginning, it was a little tough, but now I feel like people trust me more as a coach as well when I share that, like, hey, I'm human too. And so I'd say people pleasing, there's a few, but people pleasing in particular was really tough for me, especially going from part of a real estate agent or somebody in real estate. Like, part of the reason I believe everybody chooses their career subconsciously because they've got like internal goals they want to achieve like interpersonally. And I think real estate people are rather people pleasers. And so for me, learning to put everybody first, I think was something that I adopted from childhood. I grew up with a single mom, and I felt the need to always put my brother first. And some of my environments at times were rather unsafe. And so I had to constantly be on this kind of survival mode as to like, okay, how can I keep everybody happy, comfortable, and safe? And I think others will relate to this too, like making sure everybody's comfortable so that I don't get criticized, I don't get rejected, I don't get yelled at, I don't get in trouble. And so when I got into coaching, I did end up partnering with some people that really weren't in alignment, but also tried to kind of take over my business. And I had to move through this, and I had to do the whole people pleaser pendulum swing, like going from a people pleaser to all the way to I could do it myself. Nobody bother me. Nobody talk to me. I'm going to isolate myself. And then I had to come back in the middle, and I had to learn how to say no without feeling like my body was going to shut down, without feeling like I was not safe. And so how did I do that? I had to go through some healing. I had to understand where it came from. Where is the origin? And how can I speak to that age self and let her know everything's okay now? So I had to move through that. And this is actually my coaching framework. We start with the healing. So I had to attack the limiting belief. The limiting belief is I'm not safe if other people are uncomfortable. And then I had to attack the mindset, which was the fear, right? And I had to understand where that fear was coming from, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. Then I had to attack the behavior. This part's really important because every time I didn't say no or did something I didn't want to do, it sent my brain a confirming, validating my limiting belief of my needs are not important. So it took a hit on my confidence every single time I would people please. That's the message my brain was getting. My needs are not important. So I had to change my behaviors. And for any of my fellow people pleasers here, the best way to move through people pleasing is not to go straight from being a yes person, saying yes to everything, and then going straight to saying no. You want to take small steps. And the first thing I had to do was come up with a little plan for myself because I'm like, this is scary. Like, just tell people no or to stick up for myself and tell people something doesn't work for me. So I would say, let me let you know. I'm not sure yet. Let me get back to you in an email. Let me get back to you in a text. So my response to everything was, I don't know, for a little while. And it was such a key thing because my brain started to change. It started to integrate safety, and it actually started to build a capacity for me stepping into my power, me stepping into my confidence, and actually stepping into a higher desired life that I knew I could have. And so now I'm more at the no space, depending who the person is or depending like where I'm at, because I was such a people pleaser. I was so like wired that way. Like in my mind, I didn't have any agency. Like I didn't even have any clarity. I didn't even know what I wanted. So this helped me regain agency and clarity over like who I am, what I wanted. So now I'm at the point of like, I can say no. And I also sometimes say, I don't know, let me get back to you, or let's circle back on that. So still moving through it. I think it's always a management process, but that's a big block that I've worked on personally.
I think it's great. I mean, so I also am a people pleaser. And I don't know, I started trying to think through like some of the roots of it. So you might have a new coaching client. I don't know if you're taking new clients, but I might have to give you a call to work
I am. I got you.
back to the, the root cause, and we'll just, isolate that shit and get it out of there. But I think I say yes to so many things. One, because I'm just so opportunity oriented. So somebody has a new business idea, somebody has new something, and I'm like, yes, let's do it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I don't have any time. I have negative time. And then I'm like rushing through workouts. Working out is a big deal to me, but I'm always like, and then I don't stretch at the end of them. And it's like, because I overcommitted to like everything. And then I want to make sure that I do it well. And then all of a sudden I don't get the sauna session like Brock does for an hour a day, like I don't get to do that because I overcommitted to so many different things. And I don't like letting people down, especially people that I, that I like, that have done me well. Like I don't want to have to let them down, but it's also, if you do that, then you're letting yourself down. In a way by not, and I do have my priorities straight, and I definitely know what I want. I mean, I spent a lot of time on goals. I think I was already talking about that, just programming the subconscious. But that's one thing that's very interesting that I'd love to work through with you. So we can take that, we could do it on, live. But I really want to get into Brock's limiting beliefs too.
Well, I had a comment on that. I mean, I think the topic of confidence, right? I mean, it seems like there's a small percentage of people that just naturally have high confidence, right? Like no matter what, they just always walk in the room with high confidence. And I feel like confidence plays such a big role in like everything in life, right? Whether it's success in your career or business or, relationships or whatever it might be.
Dating.
Confidence plays such a big role in all of that, right? I think it's interesting to think about like going back, that it's not necessarily something that in your mind right now, like you go back years to unpack why there's a confidence issue is super interesting. And I feel like the whole movement of mental health is just like, has boomed so much over the past couple of years, right?
It's real.
Like back in, 10, 20 years ago, right? Our parents' age was, especially like on the male side, right? Like you don't talk about your feelings, right? You just bury it. And like, you're not supposed to talk about it. But it's like so prevalent now, and it's super interesting because it's like we're trying to achieve and be a high performer. A lot of the things you wouldn't think are important are super critical.
Absolutely. And honestly, even just like, I mean, everybody feels anxiety, feels, about certain things, right? Like and back in the day, I would have been like, anxiety, I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? But now I'm like, dude, I feel it. And now it's like recognizing when I feel it. And I'm like, I'm just feeling anxious about something. And then what it is, and I'm trying to work back in my mind and what that is, and then sort of step away from it and be like, well, I'm just feeling anxious about this because of whatever. And, it'll pass or whatever. That's how I deal with it a little bit. But
well, all right. So going into, I guess I could share like something. So like the
deep
I feel like something that a lot of people probably struggle with, or I know sometimes I struggle with, is overthinking things. Right. And it could be something that's so small that doesn't even matter. But it's like you spend 20 minutes in your mind playing out these different scenarios and overthinking it. And it just leads into potentially negative thoughts, right? That spiral on throughout the day. How is something like, is that a common thing you see? And like, if so, like, how do you generally address that?
Yeah. Overthinking. I love overthinking only because it's such a compass, because overthinking is your mind's way of avoiding feeling feelings. So there's something underneath that overthinking that wants to be addressed, and you need to address it. And I love how you guys said, like, when anxiety comes up, because it's not about avoiding the emotion. Like, it's not about feeling like, incapable because you have anxiety. It's not about not feeling good about yourself because you have sadness, right? It's about learning to feel these feelings and process them and be okay with them. And you have to let yourself feel feelings. And we're human. I think we try to be robots sometimes, but we forget that's part of the human experience is to feel. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel, then we're not going to enjoy this life. We're not going to be able to be present in this life. So overthinking really is a byproduct too. Like there's something beneath there that needs to be addressed. There's either a suppressed emotion, and it's your brain telling you like, hey, we're trying to avoid this. Like, let's overthink and let's overanalyze everything. Like, I know something makes me really nervous when I calculate. I'm a numbers person in my head. I'll calculate every single thing in my head. And sometimes I'm like, I didn't even know I could do math like that. But my brain will just go crazy and just calculate everything. And then I have to sit down with myself and say, like, what are you so nervous about, Lauren? Like, let's sit down and let's have a little internal dialogue and a little internal conversation. And so that's why I do that framework in that order, because the limiting belief sits beneath the mindset and the fear and that overthinking and all the things that live in the brain. And so addressing what is beneath it and accessing that's a whole nother conversation, because that takes time and work. But I do believe that is where overthinking comes from. That, in addition to, it is addicting, it is distracting, it keeps you not present. And so even Eckhart Tolle will talk about this. Overthinking is an addictive behavior. And anything that distracts you from doing the hard things, being present in your body and being fully present with an experience, is typically addicting, just like drinking, just like social media and things of that nature. So yeah, it's just a little sign.
You said Eckhart Tolle too, and I have not dove into his stuff, but I've heard about him, and I've thought, you know what, I need to become more present and, like mindfulness, and I've tried to meditate. Meditating for me is really just sitting there thinking about my goals, but I want to get a lot better with this stuff. So if you what is, like, he's got a famous book or two or something.
The Power of Now. Yeah. It's all about being present.
I think I have it. It's in I bought it. I just didn't read it.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
I wasn't being present enough. I just bought it so that someday in the future I could be present.
It's actually not an easy read. It took me a little while, and I think I could dive back into it myself. But it's pretty profound. But it's crazy how much, like, we fear being present. And I think that is, like, going into a whole nother conversation, but the difference between toxic motivation and healthy motivation. Because we can achieve the same exact goal, right? And we can get there going straight, like we can get there in a balanced way, or we can get there riding the roller coaster and of chaos and crazy up and down. We could do it however we want, because it depends. If we motivate ourselves off of, like, negative self-talk and not being present and constantly worrying about the future, like, oh, but that drives me, that makes me successful. Yes, it does. And I've been unhealthily driven off of that as well. It gives you a fire, and it will definitely help you achieve your goal. But are you happy? And so you've got to ask yourself, like, can you actually stand on your sidelines and, like, root for yourself and be motivated by that? Because especially for my athletes, I don't know if you guys were athletes, like, you're constantly being told, like, what you're doing wrong. You're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, be better, be better. And so that gets, like, ingrained in our brains. And so it's a pretty big difference. And I think that one over the other, of course, the healthy motivation will help you to be more present, because it's safer to be present.
That's a really good analogy, from an athletics perspective. And he and I have both played a fair amount of sports. And so, like, thinking about yourself, rooting from the sidelines, one thing that I always think of to help sort of cure the anxiety, and I am that roller coaster. Like, I got the fire. The fire's burning deep, but it's not a lot of fun to be me sometimes. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
It's exciting for a minute. It's, like, really exciting.
Yeah.
It's really not.
High highs and low lows. That's my life. But so we're going to work on that. But the thing that I've thought about that I try to help myself, I remember playing football and watching film, and you no matter what, like, you score a big touchdown, you're like, oh my God, I'm the man. That was so good. Or you do something really bad, you drop a pass, you fumble the ball, whatever, or run the wrong route, whatever, and you're like, God, I'm the worst ever. But, like, when you watch it on film, I've found that it's never as bad as it seemed, and it's never as good as it seemed either. Like, your good plays were never that good. Like, they were good, but they weren't, like, off the charts incredible. Very few, I would say. And then, like, your bad plays were like, yeah, that sucked, but it wasn't, like, just absolutely terrible. So anytime, and I carry that forward in business, where I'm like, I'm on a call, I'm doing a podcast with Lauren Plant, I'm doing whatever, right? And I'm like, I said something, it just hit. and it was great. And then I listened to the podcast. I'm like, nah, it wasn't that good. Or vice versa, right? If I'm up on stage and I'm talking and I'm like, I say something, I'm like, damn, that sucked. Then I hear it back. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't good, but it wasn't that bad. So I don't know if that's anything that you come across in your teachings.
Oh, I definitely come across it. I came across it this morning with my client. And what we talk about is like celebrating yourself. Like, do you actually take time to celebrate yourself on that end? Like, after you do something good, do you celebrate yourself? Because that's important. That's another hit to your brain of like, I love myself. And that feeds into our confidence and self-worth. But then on the other end, I asked her this morning, I said, what is it like when you make a mistake? She's like, I want to vomit. I just want to crawl into a hole. And if we are people pleasers, especially have a people pleasing block, and disappointing somebody else feels like absolute death, like, yes, it will feel like a catastrophic experience when you make the tiniest mistake. And then when you track that back all the way to your childhood, you'll probably find, where your child brain is kind of reacting there. And which is super interesting. But as you said earlier, you said disappointing others is really big for you. So it would make sense that if you make a mistake or you fumbled the ball or whatever else, like in that moment, it's like very catastrophic experience for you.
Oh yeah. I can remember, we're getting way too sidebar. I'm feeling spicy today, Lauren. I don't know why.
Spice
it's
it
Friday.
up. I like it.
Yeah. But I remember vividly, we were in the state championship and I dropped the ball. It was a long, like a 50-yard touchdown pass. It should have been, but it was way out there. So I either had to like lay out for it and catch it, but I'm like, nah, I want it like an 80-yard touchdown pass. So, and it just like off my fingertips, dropped the ball. And I had to jog back to the huddle watching it on the big screen at Camp Randall. And I was like, that feeling of like wanting to vomit, I literally wanted to just keep running and go straight into the locker room and just like, I'm done. You could just kill me now. I don't even want to be a part of this anymore. But anyways,
The question is, did you make up for it though?
Oh yeah, we made up for it. It's all good. we got back on the horse that game.
Okay.
But
let's shift gears a little bit and talk about routine. So I know routine and habits. So I know through your Instagram, you're very into your morning routine and different habits you have. Maybe we start with whether it's like a routine throughout the day you follow, or maybe it's your morning routine. Like, what sort of things do you implement in your daily life that leads to increased performance?
Sure. That's an easy question, but a tough question because people are so different. As I've gone year through year as a coach, I'm finding, especially with my ADHD clients, they're completely different. And I do believe partly ADHD can come from childhood, but of course it's a diagnosis and there's science behind it, and that's really not my sector, so I won't speak too much on it. But like if you have ADHD or some type of hyperactive personality, like you don't do well on routines. You actually really dislike routines, and it throws you and it just adds more pressure to your life, and it can be a negative. I don't know if you've recognized that with any of your ADHD friends, or if either of you are ADHD.
He's pointing at me. Now, I've never been diagnosed. But I would agree with it. But the weird thing is, I have a morning routine and I love it. And when I don't do it, I feel like now the rest of my day and the rest of my life can be chaos, and I kind of like that. But like I've found that in order for me to get what I want to get done, I have to have something that grounds me in the morning to like get through some shit and prioritize. And then the rest of the day is just probably going to be pure chaos. I'm going to be on a lot of different calls and meetings and, talking about different things all the time and whatever. And I do like that, but I don't know. And like I said, I've never been diagnosed with it, but I could see it.
I don't know. That doesn't sound as much like ADHD as it does addiction to chaos, but that's another conversation we can have on the side if you want to.
We're getting deep. You and I are going to go deep on me.
We're going to chat. But
like
when it comes to, I think it is person to person. And I can tell you what I do. I'm a really structured person. I don't have ADHD. And structure works really, really well for me because predictability makes me feel really comfortable as well. So sometimes I do have to purposely mix it up because I will get into like this autopilot where like I'm not even really like feeling my prayers or my manifestations. So as of late, what I do in the mornings, every morning when I wake up, I head right to my floor and I sit down, and the first thing I do is I pray and I get very thankful. My source is God, but whatever your source is, universe and whatever else. And I just get really intentional and I just pray and I'm grateful for the day. Like I really realize that there's a very big difference between like gratitude and saying what you're really appreciated for. But there's another really important piece that I think is important is what you already have. We get so mixed up in like wanting the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And again, that can really drive us, but it's a mindset of lack. And if lack is driving you versus abundance, there's a big difference. And so when you're always wanting more and more and more and forgetting about what you already have, I actually sit there and intentionally now, I used to be driven off of lack. So I am human. I definitely went through that. But now I sit there and I said, what do I have right now? And what am I so grateful to receive on a day-to-day that not everybody gets to receive? I get to sit in this home and this warmth and this safety and this shelter, and I have running water and all of these things. So I kind of go through my list and I really feel into that. And that taps me into that abundance and that gratitude and just grateful, like from my source that I'm here. And then from there, I go right into meditation and I try to keep my mind completely still, because that has been the one thing that has kept me creative and kept me understanding where I'm meant to go. And now I trust more so like, my inner voice and the direction that life gives me versus like always wondering, am I doing things right? Am I doing it right or wrong? And so I just get super silent and I just let my mind be as quiet as possible. If we're being very real, like the mind can only stay so quiet. And for anybody who's looking for tips, like I don't know how to meditate, it's really hard. Just start with 90 seconds. See what you can do there. Don't force it more than there. Like we need to build up to it. It needs to start small. Start with 90 seconds. Then we'll start with 3 minutes. Then we'll go to 5. So some days I only do 90 seconds. Some days I do 10 minutes. And some days I do 30 minutes, which is awesome when I can do that. But it really depends on my life. So from there, I head on my little self-care routine, which is like big self-love practice for me. I really do like spend 3 hours in the mornings to myself. Like I don't even pick up my phone until about 9. So I get up around 6:30. So just kidding. I don't go into my self-care. I go to the gym first. Got to get morning movement. That's what makes my energy levels where they're at. I haven't drank caffeine in 7 years, and it's because I'm able to like work off my own energy levels through understanding my own body, and morning movement is something that I definitely need. Even if I don't get to the gym and just do a little like dance in my living room or something, it really helps. So I get my morning movement in, I go to the gym, and then I do my self-care routine. I do my face oil, I massage my face, and I just get really grateful for my body, my skin, everything. And then I head to work. And then in all honesty, I dive in fully and completely. Like I'm in it. And I am somebody who gets easily addicted to work. I am a workaholic, so I do need to manage that. But I manage it pretty well, especially like allowing myself to get very in flow and very, into it. So I work pretty much 9 to 5. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, but those are my hours. And then on top of that, I just started incorporating an evening routine, which I don't really do, but journaling in the evenings for me is really good because it slows me back down. It brings me back to like getting out of work mode, which some people I've struggled in the past going from work mode to, okay, let's be present and be like a human again, because we don't have to think about work all the time anymore. Like when I did have to when I was a real estate agent. And so journaling brings me back and just kind of, I can flush everything out and that feels good. So that's a new one I've been doing and it's really helping because I'm learning this new skill to like dip into work whenever I want to, dip out of work. I can dip in whenever I want. I'm still learning how to dip out.
Super interesting. Okay, there's a few things want to unpack there. Yeah. first takeaway for me is I need to figure out more ways to create natural energy because I do way too much caffeine. I think you do too.
Yeah, I do a lot. A lot of.
And then
of
second thing is like, I mean, I totally agree. I think some, morning routine, whatever routines throughout the day, it's crazy how much of a difference, like by implementing a morning routine, you head into your, okay, I'm gonna start work at 9 a.m., like the energy levels you have and just how much more productive you're gonna be throughout the day. Instead of just rolling out of bed, most people roll out of bed, turn the coffee machine on and like log into their first call, right? And it's like, you're not in the
Right into
mindset to
emails.
perform,
Oh.
right? Like it's, I know there's varying like opinions.
Yeah.
People say, well, yeah, if you're spending 2 hours, but I think it's a balance of,
Yeah.
building some sort of morning routine, whether it's a 15-minute morning routine or a 3-hour morning routine, right? Like whatever makes the most sense has been, I think my morning routine always shifts.
Well, you know what a morning routine does? It tells it doesn't, I don't even think it matters all that much what you do. People get really particular about what they do. But a morning routine does, and like not picking up your phone until after you're done your morning routine, it makes you put you first. It sends your brain the message, I come before work. I come before even, all of the people that are needing my attention. Like I come first, and knowing that your business, your life, you as a friend, you as a partner, whatever you are, right? A son, a daughter, you are most important. Without you filling yourself up first, you just pouring from an empty cup. We hear it all the time. But that fills up, that's another confidence. That's another self-love. And it's like if the first thing you do is pick up your phone, what kind of message is that sending to your brain? Work's more important than my personal self-care. Work's more important than me.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the plane, and hopefully I'm never in this situation, but if a plane's, going through some troubles in the air and you lose oxygen and those things come down and you got to they tell you to put yours on first. You got to do you first and take care of yourself first so that you can show up for someone else, a spouse, kids, whatever, right?
It's a good analogy.
It's a great analogy, and that's what I think about. I'm like, I got to do me so that I can be the best version of myself for everybody else around me.
And what if it all did go down in flames, right? Like one of my clients' biggest fears, most of them, is what if I lost it all? A lot of them have built up these businesses that are worth hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And what if I lost it all? Well, you still have you. Right? You still have all the skills. You still have all the knowledge. You still have everything inside of you that you use to build that business and to become the version of yourself that you are. So you can do it again. So again, it takes you out of that lack mindset, knowing that you've got everything that you need.
I wanted to address one thing, and it's something that I don't spend enough time on, but you really did hammer it, and it's your first thing in the morning, and it's gratitude. How good does it feel when you spend deliberate time? I used to write down as part of my morning goals journaling routine. I journal in the mornings. You do it at night, and but either way, I think it's great. But I would write down too, today I'm grateful for something. It might just be my dog Jordy. I don't know, right? Like it might be whatever, right? But and I got to get back to doing that. I haven't been doing it for a while, but I just think about the times that you actually spend some deliberate focus around what are you grateful for? Because the thing is, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're in business and you're really like striving and you have big goals, right? We have big goals. I think about my goals all the time, but it's like, and you're kind of thinking about like what I don't have or what, oh man, he's there and I should be able to get there. But it's like, there's so many good things and things to be, even on our bad days, our worst days, and we've had some bad days, but it's like, there's still so much to be grateful for. And I think that just puts you in such a, you said it like opens you up to abundance, and I didn't make the connection there, but I do. It just makes me feel good. Look, it's not that bad. We got a lot of, like you said, running water. I mean, we're doing a lot better than a lot of people in the world, even when you have a bad day or something goes wrong.
Well, let me tell you something that I did when I took my little journey from lack to abundance. I used to put all of my money in a savings account, and I put the tiniest bit in my checking account and said, I only have this much money, which can be smart in ways, right? But I really pretended I had no money when I had like $75,000 in my bank account. I acted like I was absolutely broke. And so if you are constantly pretending that you have nothing just to make yourself strive for more and not really feeling that gratitude in the mornings, you're coming from lack. Like, why not be grateful and actually feel all of the things that you really have and build off of that? Like, okay, now I have $75,000 plus I can make more, which is so wonderful. And it's just a testament to how much I've done. But I think that we think we have to put ourselves in a place of lack to make us want more, to drive us. And so I think that's a reason why people don't really do the gratitude stuff, is because it'll make them complacent because they don't really know how to be in a state of like abundance. And it is a skill. Like, you have to learn how to be there, because like once you're there, like, you get to be happy. And what if that happiness gets taken away? And so people fear that in their minds and their deep belief systems. And it's a reason why we get stuck in these patterns.
I think that's super critical. Yeah, I think so many people become comfortable, right, and lose that abundance mindset where they're making a certain amount of money, or they've achieved living in a certain place, and they just become comfortable and stay in that pattern for so long. And for me, that's a huge thing. I like to break that paradigm as much as possible, to know, like, okay, if I become too comfortable, I'm living in the same place for too long, or doing the same thing for too long. It's like, how do you break that to hit that next level, right, and grow from there?
It's weird. We feel guilty for having more, when really, like, God, the universe, like, wants us to have more. More in the hands of the right person makes the world a better place. But we think we will lose ourselves. I know for me, I got lost in the sauce for a minute, especially in real estate. And then I was like, I developed this fear of, I don't know who I'm going to be with lots of money. And I've heard that before from other clients too. Who am I going to be? Am I going to lose myself? Am I going to get caught up in materialism? And really, like, we'll find out. You always make your way back home eventually. But it is like that guilt or that shame, or other people don't have much, so I don't deserve more, or that self-worth. Like, I always say, like, you have to look at your worthiness as like a jar, or like a space, your capacity, how much capacity you have to allow yourself to have the good things in life. We're not just talking success and money. We're talking about happiness, joy. And sometimes when people receive something as small as a compliment, it rattles their nervous system completely, because they're like, oh my gosh, that's too much for me, right? And so if you learn to increase your capacity to have good things, the less you're going to sabotage, the less you're going to procrastinate, the less you're going to avoid. Because what you want, these big things that you want, it fits in that space now because you've expanded to that. If your space is so small, your big things, they don't fit in there, right? And we have to learn to allow ourselves to have these things through small expansion, right? Just through all the things we talked about today. And so you get there, you get there, you get there. But if there's shame and guilt around money, money is a big topic. We could talk for a long time about money. But if there's shame and guilt around money because you didn't grow up around much, and it was either a learned behavior, or it's a worthiness thing, money's bad. We learn that a lot. Money is bad. And if that's a limiting belief that's actually in your system, you're going to have to dig it up and want to have these things, because they're good, especially in the hands of good people. We can create these big ripple effects. And we also should be able to treat ourselves. And something I did around this money in particular is I started tithing. I started giving away my money, 10% of my income every month, which was not easy. But it made money no longer my ruler. Money is no longer my ruler. I master money. I am the ruler of my money. And so I give it away to send my brain another message. And honestly, since I've been doing that, my income doubled the second I did it, which was a pretty crazy thing. I think I'll talk more about that in the future. I'm still trying to process it. It was pretty wild.
I've heard about that before too.
That is awesome.
So where do you give your money? Like donating it to causes that you believe in, or?
Yes, typically faith-centered for me. I'm faith-centered, but again, I'm open. Spirituality, I think it's whatever your source is. is fine. But for me in particular, it is God. And I like to give to non-denominational Christian churches, because especially ones that I like, because they've changed my personal life and they know how to distribute it, and they have faith base. So people who have a base of faith and that I trust with the money to put it in the right places.
I love it. So here's we probably got to wrap up a little bit. I know you're probably on a tight timeline too, but so you we love this stuff. I love mindset and trying to just become better and better and better. And there's a lot of great stuff here, and that's why I am going to hit you up afterwards to talk about some coaching. But do you run into people like in your personal life, like say you're dating, or I don't know if you're married, or if you're, or like your friends, like are they like, oh my God, I just I've had too much of it, or are you like coaching them like ongoing, or how is it do you ever turn it off, or are you just constantly like just hitting people with this like message and coaching throughout your life? What's it like dating Lauren Plant?
So I will say that my friends ask me for a lot of advice because I'm a coach, but I'm pretty careful to not work when I'm not working, because I do want to be a friend. And I do have one rule. I'm currently single, but I will not coach my partner. Like, you need to get your own coach. I'm not doing that. I'm not making work every part of my life. I think naturally, the way I speak and the things I speak about are naturally like just a little motivating and have passion behind them, because I'm a passionate person. But I won't coach my friends. If my friends want to sign up with me, they can. I will not coach a partner, but I will give advice. And my advice just tends to be good because I've just got so much of the knowledge of how to give advice just because of my skill set and whatnot. So no, I'm totally normal.
I wasn't inferring that you're not.
I do joke around. I am goofy and funny, to be honest with you. I'm pretty funny. Like, in my personal life, my friends are always like, you're pretty funny. And I'm like, why are you guys surprised? But yeah, I think I'm learning how to put a little bit more of that into my content. And I think that's another reason my income recently went up, along with the tithing, is because I started tapping into my authenticity. Like, it is who I am. Like, I'm funny, I'm goofy, but I'm also really smart in this area. And so I don't work when I'm not working, or I try my hardest not to.
Got it. And the only reason I ask that is because I preach a lot of the same stuff, not in a coaching manner, but I just read a lot of it and I try to live that way. And sometimes I'm not a bowler, but I did join a bowling league with some buddies last night was our first night. Yeah. We did pretty good too. So but anyways, like it's kind of tough because sometimes I'll be with, groups of friends and I'll start talking about something about, achieving big goals or whatever. Right. And sometimes they're like, oh my God, dude, I don't want to hear it right now. Sometimes people love it, but you got to turn it off at some point. And that's, anyway, so that's why I asked that question. But
well, the one thing I heard this one time, and it spoke to me especially, is that if somebody's mind does not want to be changed, you are doing yourself a disservice of trying to change their mind. So I'm really good at assessing, like, when I meet people, like, how I can communicate with them. Like, if I can or cannot have in-depth conversations, or if I can or cannot be real and raw with them, sometimes I just have to listen and just be there, because not everybody, honestly, a smaller percentage of people. I think it's expanding, thankfully. I think we're starting to see the post-COVID results of everybody having to be in isolation. But a small percent of people can really have like conversations like this and actually relate and want to do something about it.
Yeah.
I think too, it's like, I've noticed as I get older, right? Like the people you hang out with generally seem to like form around having a similar mindset.
Yeah.
Right. It's crazy. Like, a lot of friends you had when you were younger that you thought would be your friends for life, they just, develop different mindset or went a different path in life. It's a lot of times just kind of fall off from being your close friend anymore. Right. And it's, I've found that is the close group of friends I have is generally run a similar mindset with similar goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone listening to the podcast, okay, they've gotten through here, they're bought in. I want to implement things in my life to achieve high performance. what are some like simple steps or strategies or maybe even resources they can go to implement these things?
So I have a free masterclass up on my Instagram. I also do free Mindset Mondays, which is a webinar. I do them free monthly on like a different topic. But I say that's how you get started. Like start poking around. People offer so much free stuff and just start getting involved in it. Start taking some steps in that way. I highly suggest don't go too big too fast. If you're one of those catastrophic people, try to slow yourself down and start small, because it's a learning process on how you would like to expand yourself. Expansion takes time. Expansion takes work. And my biggest piece of advice is don't be afraid to see the dark parts of yourself and your weaknesses, because you have to heal if you want to change your mindset and change your behavior. If you just change your mindset and your behavior, you turn out to be a narcissist, and we do not need more narcissists in this world.
No, we
have
don't.
to do the inner healing. Yeah, sorry, I did just say that.
It's all good. It's all good. I learned what those were a couple years ago, and they are disastrous.
Well, you're just a performer, right? There's nothing in there. There's nothing, like nothing's going on inside. You're just a performer, and we need people to perform, but also stand in it, be authentic in it, be real in it. So don't be afraid to do your healing work. Healing is part of my one-on-one coaching process. It's the first step, because we can't really build on a broken foundation. The house will fall down. So my biggest piece is don't be afraid to see the dark corners of yourself. We all have them.
Confront the darkness. I'm going to do that. I'm going to start coaching with you. I'm going to give away some money today to the Humane Society, I think. And, because I love dogs, and then we'll figure out what else I'm doing. But anything else, Brock?
No, yeah, it's a super good conversation. I would say, again, anyone listening, check out Instagram, Lauren Plant.
Lawplant, LAUPLANTE on Instagram. Yeah.
There we go. Check out her
Plante
free
if you're French.
masterclass. Yeah, Plante.
Plante if you're French.
And I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. This was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to the podcast with Lauren Plant. We touched on some great stuff. I got a lot out of this episode just being personally talking with her. I think the main things I got out of it was gratitude, right? In the morning, starting with gratitude sets up your day to be a high performer, as well as confronting the darkness. I thought that was a great topic we touched on. And for me personally, some of the things around overthinking and how to overcome that and to build confidence. Hope you got some value out of the podcast. If you did enjoy it, we ask, please subscribe, like, comment, share. We're putting a ton of time.
Smash the like button.
Into growing this podcast, and the algorithm likes subscribers. So please take a second, subscribe if you found value in this podcast. And thanks for listening.